Hey there everyone, this is Mystic Fish and welcome to episode 26 of our Factorio series where we are designing an expandable base. For those of you who have been following along with the series as it has been coming out, there's been a little bit of delay getting this episode out. As they say, the factory must grow, and sometimes you gotta take care of the real life factory, and that's what I have been doing. So, what are we working on today? We are closing in on the end of our design sessions and getting very close to beginning our playthrough. We only have a few things left to design here. What I'm going to look at today is the builder train. And we're going to be using this for two things. One is to make it easier to build new outposts. As we scale up the base, it's going to become more and more resource hungry, and so we're going to need more and more outposts to feed it. And then secondly, once we've built those outposts, we need some way to resupply them to allow them to be repaired and defended from the biters. And so our builder train will help us with those two things. Now, the first thing that I wanted to look at here was to think about what is the biggest outpost we might have to build. And I think we think about where a resource patch might land. Because we have these aligned grids, it's possible that a resource patch lands with sort of a corner of the grid in the middle, in which case then we would need to build the 4 grid segments around it, as well as having our resource loading station down here for putting the resources on. So I think the largest outpost we might build is sort of this 2x3 rectangle. Now, as I was thinking about how to design a builder train that could carry all these materials, one of the things that I ran into was that our original design for the walls, and I have actually come and refactored these to sort of break them down into constituent parts a little better. But if you remember, our original wall design looked something like this, right? We had 4 walls deep, and then we had these dragon teeth to funnel biters into these areas where they could get concentrated fire from flamethrower turrets. But when I actually went and put dragon teeth all the way around this, it turned out there were just too many walls in that design to carry everything on one builder train. So what I decided to do is to build this in phases. And the initial walls that we build will just be 2 deep, and we won't have any dragon teeth. And that'll allow us to get an enclosed area in the outpost, and then we can go add the dragon teeth later as desired. So I then needed to figure out how to fit all of this material onto a builder train. And I actually designed, I actually used a spreadsheet to figure this out. I will post a link to it in the description in case you're curious. But the results are these builder trains. And there's sort of several variants here. And the way to think about it is one thing that might vary is what we're currently using to defend the outpost. And that can range from mines to flamethrower turrets. Eventually we'll add laser turrets, and then finally artillery turrets. And so there are 4 defense types, and those correspond to the way we've designed our walls to evolve and expand as well. And then the next area is what kind of belts we're using inside, especially for mining outposts. And so those could use yellow or red or blue belts, and that's largely a matter of how big the resource patch is and what our current mining productivity level is. And so we've got 3 variants for belts, 4 variants for defense, and so that gives us 12 variants. And so that's what we have here. And so when we're ready to upgrade to sort of a new type of builder train, what we'll do is we'll deconstruct the old one and then stamp down a new blueprint. So I've blueprinted all of these to make it easy to do that. All of them have the same schedule, which is basically go back to the main base, to the builder train depot, and collect stuff, and then go out to some outpost that needs stuff. And so we'll go over the conditions that make this all work, but that's basically it. So go back to the base, fill up, and then go out someplace to some outpost and unload some amount of stuff. Each of the cargo wagons here is filtered. And so this is what I used the spreadsheet for, was to figure out how many slots I needed to have reserved for each type of item. Generally speaking, most of these things are the same between variants. One of the things that changes are the belts. So for example, when we're on the blue belt variant, then we need more blue belts when we're building. But we may still already have some outposts that may need yellow or red transport belts that we've already built that we might need for maintenance if those somehow get destroyed and need to be rebuilt. So we do have some space there for red and yellow, but in this case, this is mostly blue. If we look at the red variant of it, we can see we mostly have the red belts. I did reserve a spot for a blue belt that is really not going to be used at first, but made it easier for me to sort of manage this. And so we can see this mostly has the red belt stuff, but it also has a few stacks of the others. And then the yellow belt variant is mostly yellow belts. And then we'll have a couple of slots that are unused for red and blue. The only other variant, I believe, comes into play with the mines. So when we are primarily using mines for defense, we need a bunch of slots for mines, but once we get to laser turrets, we really don't need mines anymore per se. Like the laser turrets and the flamethrower turrets should be enough. And so once we get to laser turrets, we can see that we've replaced some of the slots for mines with laser turrets. And so that's what the builder trains are going to look like. The next thing, and then there is also a separate one for delivering artillery shells once we get to that point. And this has a single artillery wagon. The nice thing about this is that we can carry a full stack of 100 artillery shells just in this one slot, which is nice because it's a nice compact little design here that can hold a lot of artillery shells. So let's talk about the main base depot for this. The general idea is that we have buffer chests for each of the item types. And we have a set of constant combinators over here that determine how much of everything that we want. So in this case, for example, this says, hey, we want 2,200 walls on this particular builder train variant. We've expressed it as a negative number because what we'll do is, if we look at this station, we are also reading the train contents. And so the contents will come out as positive numbers. The demands will be negative numbers. And so if we add those two together and it's a negative number, then the train is missing some amount of items. And so that's what this checks. So it just says if there are any signals that are less than 0, it means that we want more of some type of item on the train than it currently has. And if that's the case, then we output this red signal. And that is one of the things that we'll keep. And let's see, if we do that, we have send to train checked here. And so that means that that red stop signal will actually come back to the train, and so it will not leave as long as there's a stop signal going. Then, in turn, what we do is we multiply the demands that we have in here. Remember, these are all negative numbers, right? So this is negative 2,200. So we multiply it by -1 and output walls, and so that sets the logistics request here to 2,200 walls. So the idea is that each of these buffer chests should buffer up a full extra train worth, so that even if we have unloaded the builder train at an outpost, hopefully by the time it comes back, we've actually got everything that we need to completely fill it up again. But the nice thing is we can just update these demand circuits, and that will change the requests on the buffer chests here. And then these inserters are all set up to be controlled so that they're enabled and disabled. In this case, this is for the walls. So as long as we have fewer walls than are desired, then this will be active. And so we will load things onto the train. And then the filters on the trains also will prevent us from overloading something. And so we'll always have room for the things that we're trying to put on it. And so that is how this one works. I guess the other thing to note here is did do a little like snaking. This is our fuel line, either coal or solid fuel. As it comes through, I did have to snake this up here so that I could hop it through. And then we both can fuel the builder train, and then this is where the artillery train comes through. This just has requests for artillery shells, and so it will come through. Load up on artillery shells and then go out to some outpost that needs artillery shells. And then this goes on so we can connect with our other train fuel sorts of blueprints. Okay, so that's the depot. Now, sort of most of the interesting stuff happens down here on the other side at the outpost. So what I've designed is I'm calling this an outpost seed. So this is a blueprint that obviously doesn't have a full outpost in it, but what we'll do is either we'll come out with our own robots and do this, or when we get to Spidertrons, maybe we can have Spidertrons come out and build this for us. But we build this much stuff, and then if you note, this is set to X, so we can build this, then we can turn off robots or move it out of the way, stamp down the blueprints for the rest of the outpost, and then rename this to be the stop that the builder train comes to. And so this is designed in such a way that it will fit nicely here in one of our resource loading blueprints, so that we can put this down and then sort of share some of the tracks here. So that's how it's going to nestle in. Now, if we take a look at the outpost seed, we use this sort of like overlapping station trick here to save a little space. So the first train is for the builder train itself that has all the builder materials, and so those will be unloaded by these pairs of inserters. And so there's really two modes that we're going to be in. If we're constructing an outpost, then we actually just want to empty the entire builder train of materials into these storage chests so the bots can go build them, and so we use stack inserters for that. When we're in sort of maintenance mode, where we're just sort of unloading a few materials we need for repairs, then we use the filter inserters for that. And we'll see a little bit about the logic and how those work. The second outpost here is for the artillery train. And let's see, you can see that the way this lines up, if we look at the outline of the cars, right, there's just a single artillery wagon here. And so this inserter will unload artillery shells into it. And we can see that none of the other inserters down here line up with the artillery wagon, so that is intentional. And then if we look at the builder train, we can see that the artillery unloader happens to line up with a gap between cars on the builder train, and so that should only ever unload artillery shells. And then the final station here is named the same thing that we would use to request oil into the main base, and this is used to deliver oil into this tank, which is then connected to our flamethrower system. And so there's a bunch of circuits here that control all this stuff, and I'm going to try to give a quick overview of how these work. We'll start with some of the simpler ones. So here we have a green wire attached to this tank, and that comes over here and feeds it, and basically say if we have less than 2,500 oil, and a storage tank can hold 25,000, so if it's less than 10% full, then we're going to make a train limit of 1. This is set to enable the train limit, and so that will cause hopefully an oil train to arrive here and top up our oil. We similarly have something that is looking, do we have fewer than 10 artillery shells? If that's the case, then we request an artillery train to come in, and this one will unload as long as we have it connected to the logistics network, so it will unload as long as we have fewer than 20. And so the idea is that once we get under 10, that triggers a train to come in, but once a train is here, we unload all the way up to 20. And so we're going to see this pattern a little bit. That means that, sort of we should expect to have between 10 and 20 artillery shells in here at any given point in time. All right, now let's talk about the rest of the logic here. So first thing to look at is we do have this Robo Port wired up, and that's part of the reason for this sort of like funky design here, is to bring the train in such a way that we can unload bots from it and stick the bots into the Robo Port directly off the train, which is nice because we'll, definitely it's possible for construction bots to die, especially as they are repairing walls that have been defended by flamethrower turrets. They can get burned and killed that way, and so we may need to resupply construction bots as well. Okay, we are looking at both the logistics network contents that tells us how much stuff we have on hand, as well as the robot statistics, right? Tell us how many bots we are currently using and how many are busy. Just for convenience, I have converted the T signal for total construction bots into a construction bot signal, and the Y signal for total logistics bots into a logistics bot signal. And then all of the logistics content, including the robot counts, are then coming on the green wire across here. All right. Now, if we look at this station for the builder train, there's two things here. One is we are reading the train contents. And so that comes out on this green wire and is fed into this combinator. And so it says if anything is greater than 0, then that means that there is a train here with stuff on it. And so we're going to output a train signal of 1. So basically there's a train here. And so we're going to use this to manage a little state machine. So there are really two states that the outpost is, or the seed or the outpost, if you will, is going to be in. The first one is going to be build mode, and so that's going to be represented by a B, which means in that case we want to unload everything off the builder train and let it finish construction. Once construction is complete, we'll move into maintenance mode. That's signified by M. In maintenance mode, there's a smaller set of stuff that we want to keep on hand, and we're really just using that to do repairs. Okay, so once we have seen a train come in, then what we're going to do is we're going to compare that train signal to the maintenance signal. So if we are not in maintenance mode, then this will be a 0. The train will be a 1, and so we'll get a 1B coming out. And that will feed in here, and that will trigger us to enter the B state. So basically, this is the B state machine. It's an RS latch. And so once we've seen a B, we will continue outputting a B until we have moved to maintenance mode, M. Once there's an M, then we will no longer be outputting a B, and we'll just be in M mode. And similarly, here is a little memory cell that once we've seen an M signal, then we will remember that we have seen that M signal forever. Okay, but in this case, this gives us a way to trigger the initial B. Then what we do for these stack inserters, basically we say if we're in the build mode, B mode, then we're going to enable these stack inserters, right? We want to unload the entire train and just get all of those materials out as we come in here. That includes sticking construction bots into the Robo Port here. I'll go over this in a minute, but we have these filter inserters that decide whether we should be inserting construction bots or logistics bots. If there's construction bots that we unload from the train, we always want to put them into the Robo Port. And so we have a constant construction bot filter here. That's why these construction bot filters are present. We're using set filters here on these filter inserters. Okay, then the question is, how do we move from building to maintenance? And really the thing that signifies that is whether the construction bots are still busy building the material. And so here we have, if you remember, back at our mall, we have our clock signal C and our not clock signal D. Remember that D is not C. So D is 1 most of the time, and then C is 1 once every 15 seconds. So we will send those on the global network here that we have with the large power poles. I have duplicated that logic down here just for some testing, but that is okay. And so here's where we come into play. So the question is, when do we want to move into maintenance mode? And I would say that is once we're in the builder mode and we don't have busy construction bots anymore, right? Once the construction bots are idle, they don't have anything else to build. And so once they've been idle for long enough, then we can go ahead and figure we'll move to maintenance mode. And so the first thing we do is we say, hey, are there any busy construction bots, right? So if the number of available bots is less than the total number of construction bots, I mean, some of them are busy, and we're going to output a yellow signal here. Then what we're going to do is we're basically, if you remember, D is 1 most of the time. And so we'll multiply the yellow signal times D and output the yellow signal. And so what will be is once we've seen, and this does have a little loop back on it. So what this does is basically that since D is 1 most of the time, once we've seen some busy bots, we'll remember it. at least till the end of the current 15-second cycle, because then when the clock fires, D will be 0 and it will clear this out. And so that is what we're going to be watching for. The next thing is we want to watch if we get a clock signal and the clock being 1, if it is greater than the yellow signal. And remember, if we've seen busy bots, the yellow signal is going to be 1, so this will not be true. So it's only if we've gone an entire 15 seconds without seeing a busy construction bot will this be true. And if that's the case, and we can output the green signal that says we are good to go, we're done building. And here what we do is if we see a green signal and we're in the builder mode, then we can move to the maintenance mode. And we output the M, and that feeds into this little state machine here to set the M mode. So that is how that works. And I think the last thing that we have to cover here is how we do the unloading here. So we already saw that from builder mode, we're going to use the stack inserter. So it's really what are we doing with the filter inserters when we're in maintenance mode. So as I mentioned, we've got a reduced set of things. These are sort of the lower bounds on how much stuff of this we want to have on hand. But what we want to do, as we saw with the artillery, is we actually want to unload, in this case I'm going to say twice this amount as the high water mark. So the idea is we want to have between this amount and twice this amount on hand at all times for all of the items in here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply those demands by 2. And then we're going to combine it with this green wire that tells us how much stuff we have. And so that will basically say, that'll tell us if we put those together and the amount is negative, then we have more unloading that we need to do. And so for all of those, we multiply those by -1, then multiply that by M. So this, if we're not in maintenance mode, M will be 0, and so it doesn't work. Nothing comes through here. But if we are in maintenance mode, then those signals will come through. So which ones will come through? So the only ones that will be positive are the items that we still need to unload. We're not yet at the target high water mark for those. And then that gets fed into here with set filters. And so the idea is that the filters of these will be set only to the items that we are missing. And so we'll be able to just unload the items that we want here. Yeah, okay, so that is basically how this all works. I have set this up as a little test bed here. And so we can see that we've got a builder train. We've got the buffer chests have been put in. In this case, this is I'm not sure which this is. It looks like this is a primarily yellow belts because we are not requesting any red or blue. We're definitely doing mines. We're not doing lasers. We're doing this might be the very first sort of lowest level builder train because I don't see any flamethrower turrets here either. So anyway, so this has been loaded up. We can see that it's got stuff on it because we're doing primarily mines. We don't have even any walls on here. But we got the mines, we've got the stuff for trains, mining, things of that sort. Here's all the belts. And the inserters. Oh, I should say once we get to red belts, we upgrade from fast inserters to stack inserters. So that's important to know. There are construction bots on here. And so the idea is when we're ready to build an outpost, what we'll do is we'll come in here. And I have all of these. I have a bunch of the builder depot blueprints. In most cases, it just has the combinators. You can see this is just 4 combinators that have the new demands on them. And so when we want to update what's on the builder train, we can just stamp this down and that just updates the demand combinators. But what we do is we come out here, we grab one of our outpost seeds. So in this case, I'll get this basic one. We would build the outpost seed. We can see that the train is not coming yet because we would need to rename this station here to be the outpost version. And then at that point, it should be we should get a train coming. Yeah, so here comes the builder train. And what we should see is that over here, we don't have an M and we don't have a B. So now a train has shown up with some stuff in it. We can see that we get the output signal of B, and we don't have an N. So we're in builder mode, and we can see that the stack inserters are unloading all the stuff. So those will go. It includes, you can see that the construction bots that were on the train got stuck in here as well. So we're deciding that we're going to use 50 bots to make an outpost as we go. Oh, I should mention, this right here just says if we're in maintenance mode, then you're allowed to inject logistics bots in here. So we really don't want to start supplying artillery shells to the artillery turret. That's the main thing that uses logistics bots. We don't want to do that until all of the rest of regular defenses have been built. And so that only happens once we're done with the builder phase. So let's see. At this point, we may have actually kicked over into maintenance mode. Oh no, I don't have the signals hooked up here for the clock. So I think we need a clock signal to make this work. We would normally have a clock, but where do I want to stick this? Over here. So I can make a clock for a 1, and then if I can take that off, it should be the case that this ticked over. We can see that we now are not outputting B, we are outputting M. We have plenty of all of the stuff, so the train limit here is 0, so nothing needs to come out here. In the event that we run out of something, like say repair packs, so I'm going to pull this out of logistics network. We should now see that this is set to 1 because we're missing something. All right, we're missing in particular the repair packs. So that's refilling the builder train here. But we can see that the filter inserters have now been set to just unload repair packs. That's the only thing that's missing. If we are, also missing rail signals, we can see that the filters get updated as we go. We do it this way. It doesn't matter which car that the item is on. The right things will eventually get unloaded. What are we waiting for up here? What are we less than? Oh, it looks like we're missing mines. Okay, activity on activity. So then in maintenance mode, it comes back out. This should just unload enough. What's our target number of repair packs? 50. So it should unload the 100 repair packs that we have on the train. So there it goes. And you can see that's the only thing that's being unloaded. And so that means that once we get into maintenance mode, this can be pretty efficient, and we're really just unloading the stuff that's needed at each outpost. Now we're doing the rail signals. Obviously, we have enough. We stopped. After inactivity, then it goes back. And so that is how the builder train is going to work at the outpost. So that is pretty exciting. And that is what we have today for an episode. So let's take stock of what is left. There is not much left. In fact, I think there's really just sort of 2 things left to do. One of them is, I think, a pretty quick episode to design an oil processing for doing solid fuel. If you remember, there is a variant of our steam power that we have that uses solid fuel, so we'll want to provide that. And then finally, there's the initial jumpstart base that we will build that will get us up to just enough to get construction bots, basically, and trains. And from that point on, we can build the rest of the main base. So those will be coming. Those will be problems for future Mystic Fish. So as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And until then, bye.